Okay, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Baruch HaKadosh, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, Shalom to Hopeful Elect. Now, I ran across this article, as you can read, the title says, Russia, human robot falls on stage during debut. And when I ran across this, I'm just like, damn, right? Why everybody building a humanoid robot? But then the thought came to mind, that's what we're heading towards, right? So I'm gonna grab this article. It reads, Russia's first humanoid robot with artificial intelligence fell on stage during its official debut at a technology event in Moscow on November 10th, prompting staff to cover the machine from public view while attempting to fix the malfunction. The robot named AIdol, right? And that was another thing that struck me. AIdol, right? They're not even trying to hide it. AIdol. They're creating these idols, man. They putting it in our face. AIdol, like, come on, bro. But it's it goes into that beast system, right? The image beginning to speak. We'll grab that. But the robot named AIdol, right? Clever name, was introduced by developers as an advanced example of anthropomorphic robotics built largely from domestic components. As the robot was being led on stage by two staff members to the soundtrack from the film Rocky, it lost balance and fell, leaving several pieces behind on stage. Video footage of the incident shared by independent Russian outlets shows staff rushing to hide the robot behind a screen as it was being dragged off the floor. And here's a clip. Whoa, are they gonna copyright me for that music? We'll see. Actually, can I just mute this? The music is irrelevant. Right, as we can see, the robot's already not doing too well. Like, shit's limping and shit look drunk. You guys see the logo, right? AIdol. Not even trying to hide it, man. They literally telling us straight in our face, it's an idol. So that's the video, right? But why it matters, the unveiling of AIdol marks Russia's attempt to join a global race to develop human-like robots powered by AI, led by Vladimir Vytukin, CEO of the Russian robotics firm AIdol. The company says, so they just out with it. The company says the robot integrates movement, object manipulation, and human-like interaction through embodied artificial intelligence, right? So going back to this point, the unveiling of AIdol marks Russia's attempt to join the global race to develop human-like robots, right? And the thing is, another point that I realized was they're always framing these things as races. They're joining the race to this, the race to the moon, and the race to create this nuke, and the race to create that. Now it's the race for the perfect humanoid robot. And really, they're just framing it like that to hide the fact that this is what we're moving towards, right? To hide the fact that this is a new world order, right? This is not no damn race. This is the new world order that they're trying to place in right in front of our faces, and they're framing it as a race, right? Well, we're just trying to beat them to do it. No, you all want to do it. Trying to frame it as something lighthearted. You get what I'm saying? but it's not that, right? And we see through it, man. The unveiling of AIdol marks, that name is crazy, bro. The unveiling of AIdol marks Russia's attempt to join the global race to develop human-like robots. We read that. All right, what to know? The fall was attributed to calibration issues, and the company maintains that the incident occurred during the robot's ongoing test phase. I hope that this mistake would turn into an experience, Vidikin said. Now, if you go on YouTube and stuff and Twitter comments or X comments, and Russia's basically getting railed, right? They're getting made fun of their scientists, their technology and whatnot. But a thing that my brother pointed out to me was that, excuse the noise in the background, but a thing that he pointed out was that Russia's smart, right? So they could really just be trying to hide their hand. Russia, they like to play dumb in so many words. And that could very well be a good point, right? That is a good point, actually. And that could very well be the case. Not trying to disclose what they really have, because that makes sense. How they came out with this knowing it was fucked up, and then they're brushing off the hate or the comments behind it. Like not feeling anything towards it, like, okay, it is what it is. But continue reading. Although the launch was meant to showcase advances in domestic AI and robotics, critics on Russian social media and tech forums instead focused on the robot's instability and the decision to unveil an unfinished prototype. The video has been widely shared online, with many questioning whether Russia's robotics sector is ready to compete internationally, right? And basically, my brother, the point he brought out was, that might be what they want people to think, which that's a good point. That could very well be it. The developer dismissed the criticism, right? And that's another reason, like he's just dismissing the criticism as if, they knew it was coming and they don't care because they know what they really have. How it be like that sometimes. People making fun of you, but you don't really care because you know what you can do. The developer dismissed the criticism, noting that AIdol is powered by a 48-volt battery that provides up to 6 hours of continuous operation and is composed of 77% Russian-made components, a figure the company aims to increase to 93% in future production. They added that the robot is equipped with 19 servo motors, allowing it to display more than a dozen basic emotions and hundreds of micro expressions. Its silicone skin is engineered to replicate human facial expressions with varying degrees of firmness. The robot can smile, think, and be surprised just like a person, Vidikin said during their presentation. Slovakia. Vladimir Vidikin, CEO of AIdol, said during Wednesday's presentation, this is real-time learning, when a good mistake turns into knowledge and a bad mistake turns into experience. The robot's developers temporarily removed the machine from public view while engineers examined its balance systems and control software. They said the robot remains in the testing phase. Right, so that seems to be all, but like I pointed out before, right, everyone seems to be making these humanoid robots, right? You just had Elon Musk, right, the shareholders conference or something, I believe, where he basically proposed a plan to usher their humanoid robots out on a scale like none ever before, right? And I believe he said words like, I believe everyone will want one and shit like that, and how they're going to make an assembly line, a billion assembly line. It's just a lot of shit. Basically, they're going to make a lot of robots, right? But there's other places here in America. You got China, you have Russia, you got the UK. It's just all these robots, these humanoid robots, right? So I went to the good old chat, the good old chat, ask it a question or two. So I'm gonna read what it says. It says, I asked it, why are the nations around the world developing humanoid robots now, right? Where did this humanoid robot race come from? Like, what's the point? That's a really good question, and it's actually tied to several major global trends happening right now. Nations and tech companies are racing to develop humanoid robots for both economic and strategic reasons. Here's a breakdown of why this is happening now. AI has finally caught up. Until recently, robots couldn't think or adapt well, but now, thanks to advanced AI models like GPT-based systems, robots can understand natural language commands, learn from their environment, interact more smoothly with humans. This new intelligence makes humanoid robots much more practical than before. They can handle flexible, unpredictable human spaces instead of just factory lines, right? And this was the whole point of that AI. It's like they put that out, basically prototyped so that as people used it, it'll be better and better and better, right? Gradually growing to the point where it's perfect, right? And you can tell this was planned out, right? They used the people to perfect their AI brains for these robots, right? As it says, AI has finally caught up. It reads, labor shortages and aging populations in countries like Japan, South Korea, Germany, and even the US. The workforce is shrinking or aging fast. Humanoid robots are being designed to assist in elder care, perform service jobs, cleaning, delivery, reception. And these robots, these robots is the reason these jobs are going, bro. Let's be real. Hella people getting laid off. Hella companies closing down. I just seen a thing where Wendy's, I believe, is having to close down a couple of their stores, or hundreds of their stores, because they losing money, right? These companies are losing money. These stores are losing money because the people who are supposed to be paying for it is losing money. Why? Because they're losing their jobs. And it's all designed that way. They have to bring this current world down, or the current, America down, mainly speaking on America, to build up what they truly want, to get it to where people are compliant, Economic and industrial competition. Nations view robotics as the next major tech race, similar to AI and semiconductors. The US, China, Japan, and the EU all want to lead in robot manufacturing. Right? There go that word race again. The next major tech race. Framing it as a race just to seem like it's just something we're doing, but nah, this is just a goal that we're all trying to achieve, that new world order. These robots are a part of that, this digitalization, technological age, right? A technological revolution is going to get real sci-fi, That's what they want. With the transhumanism, so on and so forth, right? In which all of this stuff is demonic, right? That's where they get the knowledge to create these things from, the technology. All right, Salakia for the interruption, but basically what I was saying, right? All of this technology is just left-handed witchcraft, man. If you were to place a freaking someone with a phone now, back in the ancient times, what would they look at it as? Witchcraft, because that's exactly what it is. All right, but continuing reading what the chat said. Whoever dominates humanoid robotics could control $1 trillion industry in automation, logistics, and healthcare. Think of it as the space race of the 21st century, but focused on intelligent machines, right? Because everything is heading towards that technological age, man, technological system, that beast system, through means of technology. Human-centered design. Humanoid robots are being built in human shape, not just for looks, but for compatibility. They can use the same tools, doors, and vehicles that people do. No need to redesign entire factories or homes. They can fit right in. That's why the humanoid form is now considered practically efficient, not just sci-fi aesthetics. Or they're trying to play the Most High. They want to be like the Most High, man. That's why they're making these humanoid robots. That's why they're trying to make them lifelike, They're trying to create life. Military and defense interests. Governments are also interested in humanoid robots for search and rescue in disaster zones, hazardous missions, nuclear chemical combat support, potential future autonomous soldiers, or logistics units. Exactly, right? When shit get heavy out here, right? We're in a martial law state, and they send these robotic, soldiers out. What can you do? Can't shoot at them, right? Jake got all their guns and their Glocks and their switches. They gonna try to bust at these soldiers. Whole time this shit's made out of impenetrable metal. And then you best believe they're going to be coming with things like this. That's why scriptures say it's going to be like a time like none ever before, because of the times that we're in. You know how bad when these nations came up against the people of the Lord back then, you know how bad it was with the things that they had back then. I want to say technology, but I'm not sure if that's considered technology. Well, it would still be considered technology, but with the less modern technology they had back then, you know how bad it was. So imagine now, with the things we have now, the technology we have now, the creations now, how bad it can be, man. That's why it's going to be like nothing ever seen before, nothing ever experienced before. It's going to get real bad out here, and the only way to make it through that is with Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. That's why the main purpose is to preach what? Repentance. Come back to the Lord, man, before those times come, while you're still able to, man. Because when it's too late, it's too late. And it's going to get real bad. You can't even put into words how bad it's going to get. But continuing, it says Elon Musk, Tesla, Optimus, Boston Dynamics, Atlas, and China's Unitree H1 all have potential dual use, civilization plus defense implications. Public fascination and cultural momentum. Finally, humanoid robots have cultural momentum. Decades of movies, anime, and sci-fi like iRobot or Astro Boy have inspired public excitement and investment. Now that the tech exists, government and companies are riding that wave to attract attention and funding, right? In which, yeah, you're going to have these sci-fi nerds, these geeks, and just people out there in the world seeing how basically these miracles that they're breaking out, right, through technology. They're going to be trying to achieve things like spiritual power, right, through transhumanism, so on and so forth. And you're going to have these people buying into it. Right? I want to be able to shoot a laser beam out my hand. Let me go get this embedded in my arm. Right? But we know that that's going to come through having faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Through the right-handed side, right? Not the left. Right? In these movies like iRobot, a lot of these movies and shows point out why what they're doing is not a good idea. But hey, these people are foolish, right? Sottish, stupid, right? And ask me if you like, I can list the top countries and companies currently leading, and we don't really need that. Right, and I brought up the AIdol again, right? Because that's just right there in your face, right? AIdol. An idol. This is AIdol, and ultimately that's what it all is. This is the image of the beast, this technological surveillance digital system, man. What the unveiling involved. AIdol was presented in Moscow as Russia's first anthropomorphic robot with AI. It is claimed to be able to walk, manipulate, All right, that's pretty much it. It's basically saying what we read from the article, right? But now let's get into some scriptures. This is Jeremiah chapter 10. I'll start here at verse 10. But the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Awashai, is the true God. He is the living God and an everlasting King. At his wrath the earth shall tremble, and the nations shall not be able to abide his indignation. Right? His righteous anger. Thus shall ye say unto them, the gods that have not made the heavens and the earth, even they shall perish from the earth and from under these heavens. And that's the point. That's what, when AIdol, right, fell, that's what it symbolized to me. That was the omen that it portrayed, right? How the Lord's going to cast down all of their gods, all of their technology, cast down their system, right, upon his return, when he comes to return and to exact that judgment, man. You get Zephaniah chapter 2. Zephaniah chapter 2 verse 10. This shall they have for their pride, because they have reproached and magnified themselves against the people of the Lord of hosts. Right? Going into all of our enemies. Right? They've magnified themselves against the people of the Lord of hosts. The Lord will be terrible unto them, for he will famish all the gods of the earth, and men shall worship him, every one from his place, even all the isles of the heathen. Right? Because when the Lord returns and really shows face, comes and shows why he's the only true living God, the people on this earth are going to have no choice but to accept that, man. They're going to have no choice but to accept Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is the only true living God. Because they're going to see it for themselves. Right? When he brings the destruction, they're going to be praying on their gods. Ain't shit happening. Right? They still dying. They still can't eat. They still don't have no food. They still don't have no shelter. So on and so forth. They're going to realize that the gods that they've been worshiping are just idols. Right? They're just idols. They're just that. They can't do anything for them. Right? It's just AIdol. That's the name of their robot. It's just an idol. Let's grab one more in the book of Isaiah chapter 2. It's Isaiah chapter 2 verse 17. And the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the haughtiness of men shall be made low, and the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Awashai alone shall be exalted in that day. Again, because why? The Lord, when he comes, all the pride, it's being wiped off this planet. People are going to be put in their place. Not just the wicked of the heathen, but the wicked of our people as well. Everyone is going to humble themselves before Yahweh Ba'Shem Awashai, as it should be. And the idols he shall utterly abolish, and they shall go into the holes of the rocks, and into the caves of the earth, for fear of the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Awashai, and for the glory of his majesty, when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. Right? These people are going to be trying to flee, go into their bunkers, go underground, go into their space stations, right? So on and so forth, just trying to, flee from fear. But it's not going to work. In that day, a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made each one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats, man. It ain't going to be no more mocking Yahweh Ba'Shem Awashai, because scriptures say the Lord is not mocked, right? All they're doing is making it worse on their head, right? Putting a bigger bounty on their head for when he returns. You're not mocking the Lord. You're killing yourself. Let's go to Job chapter 5. It's Job chapter 5 verse 12. He disappointed the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. Right? The devices of the crafty. As we said, this is they're trying to place in a new world order, right? By means of digitalization of everything, right? Everything is technological and, technology based. But as we read, he disappoints the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. Who are the crafty? That wicked council, right? The higher ups, the elites who rule, this world. The Lord's going to bring their system to naught, man, their plans to naught. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the forward is carried headlong. Right? He taketh the wise in their own craftiness. Meaning, right? Well, the Lord's going to show that. Right? Giving them the knowledge to build all these things like their nuclear missiles and their warheads and whatnot. But in the end, the Lord's going to use that to bring them down. Right? When he has these nations launch their missiles and stuff over here on America, ultimately bringing down the beast in their system, bringing down the ruling age of Esau Edom, finally bringing down the ruling of heathens in general. Right? And he's going to use their own technology to do it. You know, their own, but really it's from the Lord. But yeah, he taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the forward is carried headlong. Right? Now, when we look into this word headlong, mahar, right? To hasten, to be hurried, to be anxious, hasty, precipitate, impetuous. To hasten, make haste. Prepare quickly, do quickly, bring quickly, hasty, speedily. Right? So the counsel of the forward is carried headlong. Their wicked counsel is carried headlong. Why? They're doing things speedily. That's why we keep seeing what? It's a race, it's a race, it's a race. The race of the 21st century. A race, race, race. Why? Scriptures say, why? He knoweth he hath but a short time, man. That's why they're doing everything speedily. That's why to them everything is a race. When it's a race, you're trying to do something as fast as you can. They're carried headlong, man. Because they know soon, if they don't get this shit up and running, they will never get it up and running. And ultimately, even if they do get it up and running, it won't be for long. Because the Lord finna take this shit down, man. So the counsel of the forward is carried headlong. But that's ultimately the Lord, right? The Lord said that he's gonna speed up the time, basically. You know, speeding up the time, speeding up them as well. Because certain things have to play out for other things to play out. Now let's close it off in the book of Revelations, chapter 13, right? You already know where I'm headed. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 13. And he doeth great wonders, right? Speaking on that beast, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And speaking on that, doing great wonders, right? How are they doing these great wonders? How are they doing these quote unquote miracles, right? As it says in the 14th chapter, through their technology, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. What does that sound like? A missile, right? These are considered great wonders because, again, this has never been seen before. Verse 14, and he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. Right? And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, these left-handed miracles that they're doing through their technology, right? Deceiving people, you know, by way of making it convenient, right? Oh, you need this robot, it'll be convenient, you'll never have to do any chores and whatnot. You know, it can cure this type of disease. You know, or take this device, it can cure this type of disease. Or we can make you see, just put these, you know, AI goggles on or whatever. These are, you know, miracles in the sight of men. Because it's making life easier, quote unquote. It's convenient. But they know that through that convenience, right, making everything convenient, or saying that they're making everything convenient, right, ultimately it just allows them to bring in their system without all the pushback, right? That's why they're being deceptive, making people think that they want this. But it reads that they should make an image to the beast. Again, that image to the beast, that beast being the revival of the Roman system through their technology, through their AI, through their robots, through their machines, that system of complete control, that system of complete surveillance, right? Their way of life, their way of governance, their system. Verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Right? So they give life unto the image of the beast. How? Through their technology, through their AI. As we just watched, they're quite literally giving life, right? Through these robots, but giving life to the image of the beast, meaning they're bringing it forth. It's coming into play. Right, they're ushering this system forward. Okay, so lock it for the interruption again. I'm trying to make this, a little quicker, but where we're on verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak. Right, and what we seen is videos of the image speaking. Right, but we know ultimately the end goal is what? That charagma, the mark of the beast. Right, that the micro C hip, the RFID C hip that they want to, implant. Right, it's not that the image, it's not like a image of, a beast or something, or like white Jesus, quote unquote, speaking, but their system being ushered in. Right, seeing bits here, seeing bits there. That's the system speaking. That's the beast speaking. And cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Right, those who don't want to bow down, worship the image, take their mark. Basically, those who don't comply with this system, ultimately who? The men of the Lord, right? The believers. That's ultimately who they really want to come after. Those who put in their faith on Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai rather than them. Those who are siding with the Lord rather than siding with the beast, rather than being down with the image. Those are the main ones they want to come after. But you're going to have these doomsday preppers and so-called conspiracy theorists, so on and so forth, who don't accept stuff like this either, which ultimately they might end up, right, when they find out they can't eat and shit, they're gonna give in, right? But the Lord's elect aren't gonna give in, right? Revelation 3:10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. The Lord's going to keep his elect from that temptation, man. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in the right hand or in the forehead. Again, that micro C hip, right? The mark, the charagma, which is going to be an actual physical thing implanted under your skin. Not a fucking tattoo. Not a stamp. No, it's going to be a literal, device implanted under you, right? This the size of a grain of rice. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had that mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, right? And that's going to get a lot of people to cave in as well. Not just the deceptions of what, their so-called miracles through their technology, right? But they're going to force people's hands, right? It's going to get to the point where if you don't take this, you die, ultimately. Well, that's what it said, right? And cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. If you're not worshiping the image, you're not taking his mark. Vice versa. Yeah, they're two different things, but ultimately, choosing not to take that mark is basically saying you're not going to worship the image, right? Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 603 right? That's 666, that high size stigma, right? In which that last word stigma goes into like a prick or a mark, right? It basically goes into the implant, right? Let's go into that real quick. I'll probably end it off there. Right? High size stigma 666, the meaning which is the basis of much vain speculation. Here, that last 6 being stigma, right? A mark pricked in or embranded upon the body. To ancient oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to, right? So basically, if you take that mark, you telling the Lord what side you chose. The beast and his system, his image, you know. Or you can, for the Israelites out there, right? You can prove and show the Lord that you have faith in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai and not take it, which ultimately is going to be the Lord to put the Spirit on his elect to not take it, right? Revelation 3:10 again. But into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to, and there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their gods, right? So you take that mark, you denying the Lord, right? Denying the one and only God, right? Who is jealous, might I add, and saying, no, this beast is my God, right? Their system is my God. Ultimately, Esau Edom is my God. That's what you're saying when you take that mark. That's what you're saying when you choose to worship the image. When they bring that mark out, that'd be the image of this beast speaking loud and clear. Right? When you aren't able to buy or sell because you don't have that mark, that'd be the image of the beast speaking loud and clear. It's right there. We're in the midst of it, right? And this is what we're waiting on, because once that happens, the Lord is, we might look up and see him waiting, bro. He might be behind the moon just waiting to pop out, And that's just me being facetious, but the day that the Lord cracked those skies open and returns, right, with the chariots, to deliver his elect is mere moments away, man. But with that being said, Lord willing, this video was edifying or informative to the hopeful elect, right? Hope I wasn't, over the place, but Slakia for interruption again. But, we brothers look into this. It seems real interesting. I'm definitely going to look into it more, because this name AIdol is just crazy. But once more, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone, and shalom to the hopeful elect.